Well, good morning, Santa Clarita. It's good to see you. Welcome in. You are listening to KHTS, your hometown station, 98.1 FM and 1220 AM. I am Matt Watson. This is SCVI, and I lead School's Eye on the Valley. And yes, we can see you. We've got cameras on your radio. We're watching you. But don't worry about it. You can watch us too. If you want to log into Facebook, go to KHTS's Facebook page and you can check us out right here in the studio on their Facebook live feed. So yeah, join us if you will, or if you want to hang out on the radio or listen on the interwebs, you can go to the hometownstation.com website and stream the show. Or you know what I like to do when I'm at home? I just say, Alexa, play KHTS, and she plays the show for me. So good morning again. Welcome in, however you're listening to us. Our show, Eye on the Valley, is brought to you by SCVI and iLead Schools. We're a network of charter schools with campuses in Castaic, Agua Dulce, Lancaster. We also have a couple of non-classroom-based charter schools. That's right. We've got an online school called iLead Online. Absolutely amazing online school. I know what you're thinking. No, my kid can't do online school. He needs a teacher. No, we got teachers that are going to give your kid more attention than they're getting on campus at iLead Online. And they deliver transitional kindergarten. Yeah, 4.5-year-olds all the way through seniors in high school. So amazing school. We've got an incredible homeschool program called iLead Exploration. You're going to learn a little bit more about iLead Exploration in just a few minutes. But if you want to learn anything about all of our campuses or our non-classroom based charters, visit us at ileadschools.org. Check us out. You can get more information about our organization and about each one of our schools. You can take virtual tours, I think. I know that if you're interested in enrolling for second semester, you can click the Enroll Now buttons on any of our schools. And I think a couple of them actually have spots for second semester coming up. So that's our show. We've got our eye on education in Santa Clarita and across the nation. In fact, we might be keeping both eyes on education this morning. But like the show says, we also like to keep an eye on the valley as well. I think that means we have 3 eyes this morning, but that's okay. We help you keep your eye on education and your eye on the valley here in Santa Clarita, as well as up in the Antelope Valley, because I know you can hear us up there too. And we do so while trying to bring a smile to your face, because that's what we do. It's the holidays. There's a chill in the air. It's nice and crisp outside. It's part of that three-week window we get in Southern California where it's actually sweater weather. And we do live in the most amazing place in the world. So just relax and enjoy the show for a couple hours. We've got a great show for you. We're going to be talking about the most absolutely amazing school project. And, we have a lot of projects that we run at SCVI and iLead, but this one really is my favorite, and this is the one that always blows people's minds. And you know what? Your kid could have a chance to get involved in it too. So, we're going to be talking educational politics later on in the show. So I've also got, I've got some resources that I want to share with you that will help support your kids. All kids, well, these resources to help adults too, but we focus a lot on our kids, and our kids are in crisis. Yeah, even still. So I've got some tools to help support them. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. You won't want to miss it. But coming up in just a moment, we've got Jalaine Hagemeister. I was just chatting with Jalaine before the show started. She's amazing. She teaches with iLead Exploration, our homeschool program. And you won't, I'm serious, you won't believe what she's doing with her students. A little bit later on in the show, we're going to be talking to Jeff Rice. Jeff is the president of Aplus Personalized Learning. He advocates for every child's right to a fully personalized education. And as parents, isn't that what we want for our kids? Somebody that knows our kids and delivers the education that they need. He also works really hard to keep politics out of education, because we need to keep the political wrangling, in stuff like, gosh, I don't know where there's a good place for that stuff, but we need to keep it out of education. So yeah, Jeff will be sharing information about how you can get the best education for your kids, as well as how you can advocate to support quality schools in our state. And yes, we'll wrap up the show as we do with, we call it fun and trivia time with Big T, but Mom makes me put my dumb brother on the show. So we'll laugh and we'll giggle and play with my brother a little bit at the end of the show during a segment we call Big T's 5 Minutes of Fame. So yeah, it's going to be a great show. Let's go ahead and get started. Our first guest today is Jalaine Hagemeister. Jalaine is an educational facilitator. That's what we call our homeschool teachers. She's got a bachelor's degree of arts, a Bachelor of Arts degree from Cal Poly Pomona. She comes from a family of educators and is passionate about carrying on that family legacy. Jalaine enjoys celebrating life with her husband and 3 college-age daughters. She loves nature walks and her 2 pups, sunset picnics at the beach, baking chocolate chip cookies, and traveling to visit family and friends. And all of a sudden, I feel like Chuck Woolery introducing Bachelorette number 3. Jalaine, so tell us, what's your idea of the perfect date? Sorry, wrong show again, Jalaine. Welcome to Eye on the Valley. So glad to have you. How you doing this morning?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you so much. And we do appreciate you joining us. I know how busy you are. It's funny. All my friends say, being a homeschool teacher. Well, when the parents are the teacher and you just oversee them, that must be the easiest job in the world. You guys work really, really hard. And I know there's a lot of documentation and support you provide your families. And you're also working really hard on this amazing project. We're going to get to that in a minute, Jalaine, but I want to talk about you because I understand you're newer to our organization, but not to education. Can you tell us a little bit about your educational journey? How did you come to join iLead Exploration?
That's a really good question.
Well, thank you.
I was in a brick and mortar classroom and taught 5th grade for a few years. And then I started my family and decided to homeschool them for a little bit, and then put them into a traditional school setting, and then realized that, wow, there are some other opportunities out there, other programs, and so ended up pulling them and putting them into a project-based charter school, which was the best decision that I've ever made.
Oh.
So my experience within education has been obviously as an educator myself, but also a parent that believed in education and giving my own children the best opportunities available. And then as they were getting older, I realized, okay, they don't need me in the same capacity.
Right.
And what is my life? What is my journey going to look like moving forward? And so I ended up renewing my credential and explored what opportunities would be out there as an educator now in today's society. And I have a really good friend who works with iLead Exploration. I had a conversation with her, and she said, you would be perfect for this job, encouraged me to apply, and here I am.
Nice.
So I'm enjoying the process.
Nice. You know, I love that so many members of our staff and our families, our learners, come to us through word of mouth, especially at iLead Exploration. I think y'all have grown to like 3,500 learners, 200 teachers or EFs as we call them, and mostly by word of mouth. And that just is a testament to how amazing iLead, especially iLead Exploration, is to work. Now, we talked about your role as an EF and that misnomer that you're just kind of hanging out, being the teacher of record for your families who are doing all the heavy lifting. That's not the case at all. Can you talk a little bit about your role? What is it like to be a homeschool teacher, an EF at iLead Exploration?
I think first and foremost, my role is to develop really strong relationships with the families. There are many families that are entering into homeschool for the very first time. And so they need to have somebody that believes in them, that is going to support them and encourage them. And I think that is really my primary goal, is to walk alongside them in this journey. There are a lot of other administrative things that I have to do as their educational facilitator. It's helping them in choosing curriculum that is designed well for the style of learning for their child, as well as sharing opportunities of extracurricular activities that they can be a part of through relationships that we have with outside vendors. In addition, it's, just being the liaison between us and the state. There's a lot of paperwork that we do need to submit and provide. And so I get to take the pressure off of the parents in that respect. But overall, I just feel like the beautiful element to this job is just developing those relationships and being there to support.
I love that, and I also love the ebb and flow that you and your colleagues engage in with your families, depending on the level of support that they need. Because I don't think I have to tell you, Jalaine, the homeschool demographic has shifted significantly since the pandemic. For the most part, not exclusively, but before the pandemic, we would get homeschool families that were pretty much used to homeschooling. I know what I'm doing. Help me out finding some curriculum, and I'm good to go. But since the pandemic, there have been a lot of families that realized, my kid actually did okay during that COVID shutdown, and we all enjoyed having the kids at home. Or so maybe I can try this, but I'm not that experienced homeschool mom or dad or grandma or caregiver. Can you help me? And the answer is yes, right? You all can lean in and
Hmm.
provide as much support as needed or as little as needed, right?
Absolutely. I think my own life experiences of having a daughter who experienced um, having education through a pandemic and realizing, wow, I actually love being home. I
Yeah.
love online learning. And so even when she had an opportunity to go back and be in person, she decided, you know what, Mom? I actually want to continue with homeschooling. And it's led her even to more online learning through, the community college that she attends. And so I really believe that there are students that learn in different ways, and the approach, we have to be sensitive to the approach. And this is such a great opportunity for those students and for those parents that are looking for an alternative.
That is a great point. I read somewhere that even today in 2022, um, something like 40% of community college classes are online or in some other way remote. And so if kids aren't able to function in that remote system, they're going to be missing out on almost half their classes in community colleges. Now, Jalaine, we invited you here today because of something that you mentioned that's very powerful that we employ across all of our schools, project-based learning. You sent your kids
Mhm.
to a project-based learning school, and it makes sense to teachers, it makes sense to kids and families when we talk about what project-based learning is, which is basically learning the content that you need to learn through real-world application rather than simulations and hypotheticals if the train leaves Chicago at 8 a.m., that kind of thing, and actually getting them doing real stuff. And that can be hard in a homeschool setting. So last year we actually piloted a project where we were bringing homeschool kids together, right? Because no, they're not just all isolated. We brought about 40 homeschool kids together and launched our first ever full project-based learning experience with iLead Exploration. And now we've got, over a dozen projects rolling out in your organization this semester. And you are working with an incredible project with homeschool learners and their families called the DreamUp to Space project. So can you tell our listeners a little bit about what DreamUp to Space is? What is the project that you're working on?
Yeah, really good question. To be
Woohoo.
honest, this was definitely a new project and a new concept even for me. I had no idea that something like this existed until I walked into iLead. Dream Up to Space essentially is a program that prepares children to develop an experiment that could potentially be launched and be explored on the International Space Station. And so as we're leading up to these experiment proposals, the kids are learning about microgravity. They're learning about what is a mixed stick. And a mixed stick essentially is a test tube of where these experiments are going to live and how they're going to be launched and flown up to the International Space Station. And so these kids are diving in, learning all about gravity versus microgravity. What are the effects of astronauts that are actually living on the space station? Could we send up something that could have health benefits, medicinal benefits to these astronauts that, as they're discovering, there are some health implications by living, in space for 6 months at a time. And so these learners are engaged in really concrete scientific material, and it's been really exciting to walk that journey with them, to be a part of this form of exploration. And right now they are working on their final experimental proposals. They have video pitches that they want to share. Wow. And it's just a really, really exciting time.
So, Jalaine, I don't want to gloss over something that you said. So your kids are learning all about space, gravity versus microgravity, how to work within the confines of a test tube, and they're working on helping to improve the conditions of health and all the different things up in space when we're there for extended periods of time, ultimately working toward the colonization of the moon and Mars. But did
Absolutely.
You say that your learners are actually going to have the opportunity to have their experiments done in space?
Yes, which I found to be extremely exciting, because we never considered that students, young kids, will have opportunities to actually send something to space. It is incredible. And so right now, we have 10 different learners that have submitted their experimental proposals. And over the next couple weeks, we have gathered a panel of assessors who will actually be looking at each of these experiments and deciding which one do we really feel like has an opportunity to do something great in space. And that team or that individual is going to be chosen to continue to develop that experiment and be able to launch it.
That is incredible. And you talk about real life. This isn't everybody gets a participation trophy. Everybody's sending their homework to space. You got to pass muster. You got to pass this panel in order to get your experiment to fly. Now, you talked about kids involved in this experiment. What age are we talking about? Are these like high school juniors and seniors, or what age kids are you working with?
Initially, we opened up this program to starting at grade 5.
Oh, wow.
And then all the way through high school.
Okay.
But sure enough, we had a younger sibling that wanted to be a part of the program. So she's a 3rd grader and has done an amazing job of keeping up with this program. And so it's really exciting to just see the growth of such young learners.
The more I got involved in project-based learning, the more I realized that kids will fill in if you step back. And if you challenge them with the opportunity to do great things, they can do it. Hey, Mr. Mayor, how you doing? There he is, Mayor Jason Gibbs. Good to have you. We're joined this morning not only by the mayor, he's just walking around here at the studios, but Jalaine Hagemeister is an educational facilitator with iLead Exploration, doing some absolutely incredible things. Well, gosh, exploring space and human colonization of several celestial bodies with her students as young as 3rd graders. When we get back, I want to talk to Jalaine about some of the types of experiments that her learners are proposing, so you stick around. I'm Matt Watson, and you're listening to SCVI and iLead School's Eye on the Valley on your hometown station, KHTS. Welcome back. You're listening to KHTS, your hometown station, 98.1 FM and 1220 AM. I am Matt Watson, and you're listening to SCVI and iLead School's Eye on the Valley. I'm joined this morning by Jalaine Hagemeister, educational facilitator with iLead Exploration. Jalaine, before the break, you were telling us all about the DreamUp to Space project that you're working on with your kids, and it just blew my mind. You said initially you offered the project to learners from 5th to 12th grade, but you even made an accommodation for a 3rd grader to get on board, and these kids are developing experiments designed for NASA scientists to conduct on the International Space Station in order to help further space exploration for the eventual colonization of the moon and Mars. Now, I've actually spoken with people that work for NASA and JPL, and for them, their ultimate goal in their career is to get something that they've worked on to launch into space. And your school kids are doing that today. They're doing that now. Now, this sounds amazing. It sounds super exciting. But we also have to come back to the educational side of it, right? You talk about the science, and there's some important science going on, but we have state standards that we have to meet. So are your kids working on learning the different content and understandings that they need to satisfy their science curriculum?
Absolutely. This serves as an additional resource for all of the scientific curriculum that is needed for across all grade levels. I mean, they're learning about scientific method. I mean, that's one of the most important elements when we're looking at science curriculum. And so they're learning how to navigate that. They're doing experiments. Even though we meet online, we're able to conduct some experiments together, which has been really exciting.
I didn't think about that. You guys aren't meeting in person. You're meeting online.
We're meeting online. So we have Zoom meetings weekly.
Wow. And so you were talking, you have the opportunity to do these experiments together?
Absolutely. We have to pick and choose carefully, obviously. But it has been exciting to have each one involved in some capacity. So it's not like I'm just talking to them. We want to involve them. We also have breakout groups so that they can converse with one another and start developing relationships, because at the end of the day, someone is going to get chosen, and there's a whole lot of other learners that are not going to get chosen. And so by them developing these friendships, once they want to design a launch team for this experiment, they can go back to these relationships and friendships they've formed to say, hey, do you want to be a part of my team? And so overall, like, yes, we don't always give enough credit to learning online, but it has worked.
Yeah.
And going back to the state standards, all of our learners that are part of this program, there are required lessons each week that they will be submitting their evidence of learning the following week. And so they are engaging in a lot of scientific material. They are performing experiments. And so all of this can be a part of what is required of them for their science curriculum.
Fantastic, because that is important too. But gosh, the way they're satisfying their curriculum is the epitome of authentic, rigorous, engaging, right? Why wouldn't the kids be excited about sending their homework to space? So awesome. So tell us about some of the project ideas that your kids have proposed. I've seen a lot in this project at some of our classroom-based charters. Tell us what your kids are proposing.
We have a variety. One of them is, what are the effects of microgravity on bacteria?
Okay.
What would it look like to grow bread in space?
All right.
To have like a starter. There's another one. This group is called Team Charlie, and they are wanting to send up a creeping Charlie plant. And so they want to grow from seed. They want to sprout this creeping Charlie because of all the wonderful benefits that this particular plant can offer.
Right. You know, I wouldn't think that plants could grow in space, but your kids are working to figure it out, right?
They are going to figure it out.
Nice.
Another one that is really interesting is oyster mushrooms. Yes, oyster mushrooms. Apparently, mushrooms can be used to actually build and develop products. And so this learner is really, thinking big in terms of, okay, well, if we do make it to Mars or the moon, we can grow mushrooms and then use it for building material. So what I will say,
that's a really good point, because you can't just order from the Home Depot and have them ship bricks and concrete and wood up to the moon.
Correct.
Amazing. All right.
These learners they're deep thinkers, they're problem solvers. What I will say is I am beyond impressed with their proposals, their deep thinking, And these are world changers is what I will say.
Yes.
And so it's really been a blessing and a joy to work with this group of learners.
So, that ultimate goal for a teacher when we go into education is we want to change the world and the lives of our kids, but you're giving the opportunity for your kids to change the world for the rest of us, which is just, exponentially bigger. That is amazing. So now all of your kids have proposed these experiments, but as you said, they all have to go and present before an expert panel, and only one of them gets selected to actually fly, right?
Correct.
So, go ahead.
Yeah, not everyone is going to be a winner, like you had mentioned. And there is, I'm sure, going to be some disappointment in that.
Sure.
However, there is still opportunity beyond that. So even if they aren't chosen, they can still be a part of the launch team of whatever learner's experiment is accepted by the assessors.
Which, again, is totally authentic. That's the way NASA works, right? You get these various teams working on different things, and if one team is selected over another, then that other team has the opportunity to jump in and support. Same thing with your kids. If their experiment doesn't get selected, they have the opportunity to jump in and support the experimentation of the team that is selected, because once they get selected, the job's not over, is it?
Correct.
So they launch
it's really just the beginning.
Right. So they first have to conduct their experiment here on Earth, right? Because we've got to have that control. Remember, scientific experiment, scientific process. Then their experiment is launched, and the NASA scientists actually follow the instructions of your kids, conduct the experiment there on the International Space Station, and then they send the experiment back to Earth for your kids to do post-flight analysis. So this is real stuff.
Is quite phenomenal.
Right?
Just to think about, even for me, to have an experiment, an idea that I come up with, to actually be in the hands of an astronaut. There's something so remarkable about that.
Oh, yeah.
It's really exciting.
Yeah, it's like I said, I would tell my families when I was in the classroom all the time that the goal of project-based learning is to provide these real experiences. And you can't always do that because we have to hit all the areas of the standards, the state content. And so when you can't make something real, you simulate it, right? I remember one of my favorite projects, we would have the kids pretend to be doctors and diagnose a pretend patient. So they're not actually like in the doctor's room diagnosing a real sick person. So you simulate it. But you talk about real, it doesn't get more real than this when your fifth graders are collaborating with NASA scientists to conduct experiments in space. Absolutely incredible.
Yeah, and I think in addition to even just their written proposal, they have what I had mentioned before, a video pitch. And so there's an element of like oral presentation that they have to submit. And I think that just develops confidence. And again, if and when these learners are selected, they have opportunities to share their experiment at the Kennedy Space Center. So they're going to be on the spot. They're going to be able to present their experiment with adults. And so this is building a level of confidence that most students don't have the opportunity to engage in.
Right.
So it's even beyond just the development of an experiment.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And Jalaine, you bring up something that I kind of failed to mention because, rigorous, tremendous scientific content here, but your kids are also learning, digital design as they're preparing their videos and their presentations. They're learning public speaking and presentation skills when they go before the panel. That's like defending their doctoral thesis. They're learning defense of their proposals. Again, all real stuff that's preparing them not to succeed, but to lead in the future. Again, as young as third grade, fifth grade, eighth grade, 10th grade. Incredible stuff that you're preparing your kids for. Jalaine, we are so grateful that you've joined our team and that you're leading this project. And I'm sure we've got a lot of families out there listening, wondering, Okay, this sounds really cool. I'd love for my kid to be involved in a school like that. Maybe homeschooling is for me. Matt mentioned, you guys provide all this support, so maybe I can do it. But it's got to be expensive. How much does it cost to attend iLead Exploration?
It doesn't. I mean, this is a part of still a public school educational program. And so it doesn't cost anything. In fact, learners are given funds so that they can choose curriculum that fits their needs. They can work with outside vendors to be a part of exciting programs like coding, or if they're in athletics, they can be a part of a gymnastics program. So we offer such a variety of opportunities for each of our learners, and it's at no cost or expense to the family.
Fantastic. Yeah. Again, because charter schools are public schools, and you talk about personalized learning. You said that learners are given funds. No, we're not paying our kids to attend the schools. But what we do with homeschool programs, with iLead Exploration, is instead of the school being in charge of how the state funding is spent on the child's education, the family themselves are in charge of how many of those educational funds that come to us from Sacramento are spent on their child's education. Gosh, you talk about full control of your kids' learning, and then they get to engage in amazing projects like this. So I have to ask, does it cost extra to be involved in this DreamUp project?
It absolutely does not. It's offered to any learner that is a part of iLead Exploration.
Wow. So you got a free public school that's offering this amazing program, and we're not even charging lab fees or materials fees or anything like that. Any learner at iLead Exploration has access to this incredible project. Again,
absolutely,
you got to be the best of the best in order to get your experiment to fly, but you can get your kids involved in a program like this. Jalaine, do you have any information? Can you tell people how to enroll if they're interested in iLead Exploration?
Absolutely. We have open enrollment right now. And so now is the time. It's never too late to reconsider what your student's educational program looks like. And I can say without a doubt, this is the best. They can go to our website at iLeadExploration.org just to learn more about what we have to offer and fill out an enrollment form.
Yeah, absolutely. So when they go to iLeadExploration.org, just hit the enroll button. Don't worry, we won't send trolls after you. That's not a major commitment. It's just to get more information and get your kid's name moving, or get your child moving in the enrollment process. Of course, at any time, if you decide that's not for you, you can back out, no harm, no foul, but go to iLeadExploration.org, hit enroll, and you can enroll in this amazing program. You mentioned that you've got current open enrollment, and it hit me. Families ask me a lot, Matt, are you guys enrolling at SCVI? And I'll tell them, well, I don't know. What grade is your kid in? I don't know if we have space. In a homeschool program, there's kind of always space, right?
Absolutely.
That's why
so we welcome all new families.
And that's why your school has grown so quickly. You're up to about 3,500 learners right now across Southern California. So again, for the most part, where you live doesn't matter either. We've got tons of families in Orange County, Kern County, Ventura, San Bernardino, and of course, tons of families here in LA County. So again, go to iLeadExploration.org to learn more about this amazing program. Jalaine Hagemeister, educational facilitator with iLead Exploration, facilitating opportunities for students to work directly with NASA scientists on the International Space Station to prepare the way for the colonization of the moon and Mars. We've been doing this project for years, and I still can't believe it. It's incredible. Jalaine, thank you so much. I want you to have a great holiday. I appreciate you joining us this morning.
Yeah, thank you so much, Matt.
You take care. I'm Matt Watson. You're listening to SCVI and iLead Schools. When we get back, I've got those really valuable resources that I was sharing, I was talking about before. A lot of our kids are in crisis. A lot of our adults are in crisis. And we're going to give you some of the resources that you may need, especially here around the holiday time. We'll be right back on your hometown station, KHTS. Welcome back. You're listening to KHTS, your hometown station, 98.1 FM and 1220 AM. I'm Matt Watson, and you're listening to SCVI and iLead Schools' Eye on the Valley. It was in the news this week. Many of you know by now that Stephen Boss, known popularly as Twitch, died this week by suicide. He was the well-known, inspirational, and charismatic DJ on the Ellen DeGeneres show who rose to fame on the show So You Think You Can Dance. His fans, his followers, his family, everyone who knew him were absolutely shocked by his passing and how he passed. He was such a vibrant personality. It reminded me so much of the death of Robin Williams as well. There's a quote by Robin Williams that reminded me a lot of this, what seems to be an epidemic of deaths by suicide. Robin Williams said, "Everyone you meet is fighting a battle you know nothing about. Be kind always." And I want to go a little bit beyond that this morning. I mentioned before that the holidays are here. They're often a time of joy and celebration, excitement and wonder. But the holidays can also be a time of great stress and sadness for some. And growing up in my family, there was usually a bit of both. So be kind to people. Your friends, your family, yes, your crazy cousin and your aunt with the scratchy beard, your neighbor, and even that jerk on the freeway. And watch out for each other. These holidays and always, watch out for each other. Keep your eyes open. You never know when you'll need to step in for someone who's struggling. I was talking just last night with a special person in my life who shared about the time that her best friend called her completely out of the blue and said to her, "Hey, I'm about to end my own life unless you stop me." And my friend had no idea what to do. So she said, "Can I call you right back?" Yeah, right? But she immediately called someone who she knew did know what to do, and then called her friend right back and said, "Hey, will you meet me at the hospital?" And she did. And her friend survives, and to this day spends her days supporting others who are at risk. So I want to talk to you a little bit about suicide today. Suicide is the third leading cause of death for youth aged 10 to 24 in the United States. In recent years, more young people have died from suicide than from cancer, heart disease, HIV and AIDS, congenital birth defects, and diabetes combined. I know, staggering. For every young person who dies by suicide, between 100 and 200 of them attempt it. Think about that. Males are 4 times as likely to die by suicide as females. However, females attempt suicide 3 times as often as males. So this is something that we need to watch everybody for. And oftentimes we think there's nothing we can do, but there are proactive steps that we can take. Parents, listen up. Talk to your child about suicide. Don't be afraid. You're not going to put ideas in their heads. Asking for help is the single skill that will protect your child. So teach them how to ask for help. Help them to identify and connect to caring adults other than yourselves. It's hard sometimes for kids to talk to their parents. It's great if they feel they can talk to you, but they need other adults that they can connect to talk to as well when they need guidance and support. Know the risk factors and warning signs of suicide. I don't have time to go over all of them today, but I'm going to drop them in our Facebook Live feed, but get to know the warning signs of suicide. When these things happen, remain calm. The worst thing you can do is freak out, even when your kid says or is doing things that are scaring you. Establish a safe environment to talk about suicide. Listen without judging. Allow for the discussion of experiences, thoughts, and feelings. Be prepared for the expression of intense feelings. Try to understand the reasons for considering suicide without taking a position about whether or not such behavior is justified, right? Don't tell them, "No, you can't be thinking of this. You've got so much to live for," things like that. It seems logical to us sometimes, but we can't take that position. Listen, ask open questions, and then supervise constantly. Don't leave your child alone if they're in danger. Ask your child if they have a plan. And if so, remove the means. As long as it does not put the caregiver in danger, attempt to remove the suicide means, such as a firearm, knives, pills. Total transparency, there was a good long time, about 1.5 years, where the steak knives in my family were kept in the trunk of my car. So, take action. It is critical to get professional help for your child and the entire family. When you're close to the situation, it's often hard to see it clearly. You may not be able to solve the problem yourself, and help can be found at suicide prevention centers and we've got lots of other resources in our community. So if you or someone you love is in imminent risk, I love that we now have a dedicated hotline 24/7 nationwide, 988. Got it? There are experts there 24/7 to help. The Department of Mental Health Pet Team can be reached at 800-854-7771, but 988 is your number. Call 988 if you or a loved one are in crisis. 988. Frogger loves you. Be well. We will be right back. I'm Matt Watson, and you're listening to SCVI and iLead School's Eye on the Valley on your hometown station, KHTS. Welcome back. You are listening to KHTS, your hometown station, 98.1 FM and 1220 AM. This is Matt Watson, your host, and you are listening to SCVI and iLead School's Eye on the Valley. And our next guest is Jeff Rice. I'm really excited about this guy. Jeff is the president and founder of Aplus. Aplus is the Association of Personalized Learning Schools and Services and was founded 20 years ago as an association exclusively dedicated to the personalized learning model of education, a 21st century leading-edge approach to delivering education that has evolved through the public charter school movement in California. Jeff is an advocate for public schools who continually highlights best practices around the state. He's a graduate of UC San Diego and has decades of educational leadership. Jeff, welcome to Eye on the Valley.
Matt, thank you. I'm very honored to be here, and thank you for that kind and thoughtful introduction.
Of course. So tell us a little bit about your organization, Aplus. How did you get started, and what is this idea of personalized learning that you promote?
Aplus was started back in 2002 to be a representative voice of schools that evolved through the charter school movement that were providing a more flexible and tailored and innovative learning approach for students, particularly for whom a classroom-only model was not a good match for their educational needs, for their life circumstances, and so on. And this group of schools really did not have a representative voice and really did not have an identity upon which to unite. Back then, they often called themselves independent study programs, or this term non-classroom-based charter schools was a statutory classification that they used. They called them non-site-based, but none of the identities really embodied or embraced who they were and what they were doing. So in 2002, a group of pioneers and I gathered together, and we came up with the term personalized learning to really embrace and embody the foundation and the heart upon which all of these schools were founded. Every one of their missions now talks about how their intent is to provide a personalized education for their students. And personalized learning was the best way to really capture the essence of what these schools are all about. As we know, it's very difficult, in fact, near impossible to personalize education within the confines of a more rigid classroom-based model where, in essence, every student is learning in front of the same teacher, every student is learning at the same pace, using the same textbook, and in the same environment.
Right.
And contrast to that, many students are not well suited for that environment and are not able to be as successful as other students, and they need options. They need choices that are more flexible, that are more adaptable, that are more tailored to their needs. And that's what personalized learning provides. So Aplus was founded not only to advance the personalized learning model as a formal model in the public education landscape, but then also to provide support services to the schools that join Aplus as members. We're a statewide association. We are currently comprised of 93 public charter schools, all personalized learning public charter schools, who collectively serve more than 90,000 K-12 students in 56 of the 58 counties throughout California. So we provide support services that range anywhere from consulting to professional development. We have an annual conference. We do networking. We share best practices. It's a very collaborative organization where our members not only are there to ensure that they can adhere to the highest standards of academic excellence and operational accountability, but that everyone within this network can be the best they can be for the benefit of the students they're serving.
Jeff,
and of course, as a condition of membership in A+, we require that our member schools sign a pledge to high standards of academic excellence and operational accountability. And we're fairly unique in the education landscape as a member association that has that requirement as a condition of membership.
I love that because accountability is important. It really is. It's interesting that you talk about having that personalized learning, meaning truly individualized. Every parent knows that their child is unique and special in so many ways, but we tend to forget about that when we send them off to school to be educated in the exact same way at the exact same time as everybody else's kid, right?
Yes, every child is a human being, and every child has his or her own unique journey in education and in life that is special to them. And how we can simply presume that that unique journey can somehow mesh with a one-size-fits-all system is a little bit unrealistic, as we've seen so many kids not able to succeed within the confines of that rigidity, within the confines of that environment. And throw on top of that the life circumstances that kids face on a day-to-day basis, not only that have been exposed through the pandemic, but that are typical. Kids can get bullied in the classroom.
Yeah.
Once they reach teenage level, they fall into circumstances that sometimes are not in their best interests.
Right.
And kids can get distracted by a lot of social issues and other kinds of things like that, to where the classroom can actually become a distraction from learning. So to be able to provide a fully individualized and tailored learning program that offers kids choice and flexibility in how, what, when, where, and with whom each child learns, which is really the essence of what personalized learning is, has been able to really transform the lives of hundreds of thousands of kids over the past 20 years.
Yeah, and, also here in Southern California, we have a huge demographic of kids who are acting, who are training for, because they're world-class athletes or doing other things that simply doesn't allow them to attend during that one-size-fits-all schedule and model of a traditional school.
Absolutely. Kids also in their teenage years oftentimes have to go to work, either to save for college or because they're coming from more challenging life circumstances where they need to work in order to contribute to taking care of their family. And oftentimes those kinds of circumstances do not match well with having to be within a classroom environment from 8:30 to 3, 5 days a week. And so being able to have that flexibility allows kids to pursue not only their goals and passions and aspirations, but to support them in taking care of their life circumstances responsibly.
So, Jeff, you talked about how this model, this 21st century, truly the best, newest wave of personalized learning has come out of the charter school movement here in California. For our listeners who aren't as familiar, can you share just kind of a brief background about what charter schools are and where they came from here in California? Like, when I was growing up, if you had money to go to private school, you did. Otherwise, it was the school down on the corner. But then we had these charter schools, and people aren't always aware of what they are or where they came from.
It's important to note, first and foremost, that charter schools are public schools. And there's a lot of misunderstanding and confusion within the public that oftentimes is revealed when somebody within the charter school movement will tell someone in the public, oh, yes, I work for a charter school. And the first response is, oh, how much does it cost?
Exactly. We get that a lot.
Yeah. And so the public really needs to understand that charter schools are first and foremost public schools, just as district-operated schools are public schools.
Right.
Charter schools are simply a choice within the public charter school system. They're tuition-free and they're public, just as district schools are. What's different is that charter schools were established in California under what's known as the Charter Schools Act of 1992. And the best way to describe charter schools is to read the excerpt from California Education Code that really describes what a charter school is. So let me read that to you so it's very, very clear. And this section within California Education Code reads as follows. It is the intent of the legislature to provide opportunities for teachers, parents, pupils, and community members to establish and maintain schools, and again, these schools are public schools, that operate independently from the existing school district structure as a method to accomplish all of the following. A, to improve pupil learning. B, to increase learning opportunities for all pupils, with special emphasis on expanded learning experiences for pupils who are identified as academically low achieving. C, to encourage the use of different and innovative teaching methods. D, to create new professional opportunities for teachers, including the opportunity to be responsible for the learning program at the school site. E, to provide parents and pupils with expanded choices in the types of educational opportunities that are available within the public school system. F, to hold the schools established under this part accountable for meeting measurable pupil outcomes and provide the schools with a method to change from rule-based to performance-based accountability systems. And finally, G, to provide rigorous competition within the public school system to stimulate continual improvements in all public schools. So as you can see, this was a very enlightened and inspired decision that was made in the legislature back in 1992.
Well, recognizing that education and the purpose of education has changed, right? I loved bullet F or point F that you were reading that talked about how it moves away from rule-based to performance-based styles of education because our kids can no longer just be taught to follow the rules, do what they're told, do it the way I show you, because they're not learning to be the leaders that we need in the 21st century.
That's exactly right. And so what moving from rule-based to performance-based actually does is support public schools to be more innovative, creative, to allow teachers to make decisions as to what's in the best interests of the students within their classroom or under their supervision, and it allows for greater flexibility. It is flexibility in how, what, when, where, and with whom each child learns that is at the heart of the personalized learning model and the personalized learning movement. Without that flexibility, particularly in having a variety of choices available, in having flexibility in where students learn, in when students learn, in how students learn, having different choices in curriculum that are not only state adopted, but that are state standards aligned,
Right.
is very important. As we know, children learn through different learning styles, as do adults. We all do, because we're humans. And being able to accommodate those different learning styles by having different choices in curriculum that move past a rule-bound, one-size-fits-all approach, not only honors and recognizes the individuality of every student, but supports each student's unique journey to be the most successful learners they possibly can be, which then in turn helps best provide them with the tools, the skills, and the knowledge they need to enter their post-secondary pathway, whether it be college-bound or career-bound or entrepreneurial-bound. That provides them with the best background and support to be able to move forward, to become very successful and productive and contributing adults.
Jeff, let me ask you a question that I often get. I live in the Santa Clarita Valley, and that's where our founding school is, and I know you're familiar with the area. My family moved us here over 40 years ago for the amazing schools. I would dare say most of the families that live here in the Santa Clarita Valley have come here because of the high-quality schools that our local districts provide. When charter schools were founded, everyone kind of had the notion that they were there to rescue the students in the failing schools of the inner cities. So what's the need for a charter school or a personalized learning charter in an area where the schools are already performing well?
The public schools in the Santa Clarita Valley are among the best in the state, and kudos to the public education system there. I think even with high-performing schools, we all understand that a classroom-only approach still is not the best choice for a number of students, both at the low end of the bell curve and at the high end of the bell curve.
Okay.
At the high end of the bell curve, there are many students for whom a classroom pace is actually not a good match for them. They can excel beyond the classroom pace and oftentimes become disengaged and disinterested in the classroom because it's not challenging them.
Yeah.
On the other end of the spectrum, even in good performing public schools, kids can fall behind the pace of the classroom, and therefore the term falling through the cracks, oftentimes they get promoted grade level to grade level, but they have not become proficient in basic subject areas in math, English language arts, and so forth, and they just simply continue falling behind as the more rigid grade level structure progresses. And then there are also kids with special needs, special interests. We talked about the challenges that some kids face in their life circumstances. We talked about how there are social challenges. Kids can get bullied. A lot of kids are facing challenges becoming pregnant teens,
Sure.
and so on. And therefore, the classroom environment is not a good match for them. So really, aside from high-performing district schools, a healthy, successful, rigorous public school system needs to be rooted in choice. needs to be rooted in choice to accommodate the needs of all different kinds of students from all different kinds of life circumstances and backgrounds, to recognize that not everybody can fit in a one-size-fits-all system.
You're absolutely right. I see it as the difference from buying a suit off the rack versus having a custom-tailored suit. It just really is that personalized fit all around. Jeff Rice is the president and founder of Aplus, the Association of Personalized Learning Schools and Services. When we get back, we're going to talk about some of the problems in the news that we've seen with some of these schools, as well as some of the legislation coming up that's taking aim at high-quality schools. I'm Matt Watson, and you're listening to SCVI and iLead Schools Eye on the Valley on your hometown station, KHTS. Welcome back. You're listening to KHTS, your hometown station, 98.1 FM and 1220 AM. This is SCVI and iLead Schools Eye on the Valley. I am your host, Matt Watson. This morning, we're talking with Jeff Rice, president and founder of Aplus, the Association of Personalized Learning Schools and Services, working to make sure that every child has access to the exact perfect fit education that they need and deserve. Jeff, I mentioned before we went off the air, charter schools have been in the news a lot lately, especially what we call, like you said, legally, non-classroom-based charters, personalized learning charters. And unfortunately, we have read in the news some instances of a few of these schools getting themselves into some hot water and kind of putting a black eye on the gang, if you will. Can you talk a little bit about some of the issues that some of these charters have had in the past?
Well, unfortunately, as human beings running systems across all walks of life, there can be bad actors, and there are bad actors in all sectors of every industry across the spectrum.
Right.
And unfortunately, within education, it can attract some bad actors as well, not only in traditional school districts, but also in the charter school sector. And it is something that those of us who are fully dedicated to integrity and high standards of excellence and accountability shun and are very concerned about when these bad actors emerge. Within the non-classroom segment, and by the way, that's a misnomer because non-classroom doesn't literally mean no classes, no facilities, no buildings. It simply means that is a designation for charter schools that do not require students to be at a school campus for more than 80% of their instructional minutes. So any charter school that has a significant percentage of students that are not required to be at a school campus for more than 80% of their instructional minutes are known as non-classroom-based charter schools. We actually prefer the term flexible-based charter schools because it's flexibility that unites them all. But within that segment, there were a couple of bad actor organizations that really proliferated into cancers and legally are being dealt with right now to be shut down and to be held accountable. That's the good news. What led to the proliferation of their bad actions, we believe, came in three primary areas. Number one, they were simply allowed to and enabled to continue acting in a bad manner and not held accountable. Number two, because the charter schools that operate as non-classroom based are so unique and so specialized, it requires a heightened level of expertise, not only from charter school authorizers who are either school districts or county offices of education, to make sure that they are being held accountable for the laws and the rules under which they operate, but then charter schools are also required on an annual basis to go through an auditing process to make sure that they are being responsible in the ways that are required of them. And in both those areas, the auditing of these schools and the oversight of these schools basically elicited a blind eye.
Yeah.
And allowed these schools to engage in activities that they were not being held accountable for. And so in order to mitigate the possibility of future bad actors entering into the sphere, we're certainly supporters and proponents of shoring up and strengthening authorizer oversight responsibilities and providing better training and expertise to auditors that should be qualified to be able to provide those independent audits on an annual basis, particularly within the segment.
You're absolutely right, Jeff. In fact, there's often or usually more accountability measures on charter schools than there are the traditional public schools. It sort of made me laugh, but almost in an absurdist way. You know, when a charter school is not succeeding, they get shut down. When a traditional public is not succeeding, oftentimes they get more money so that they can improve. But it is kind of interesting when you hear about a corrupt banker. Nobody says, see, banking is bad. And when you hear even about in traditional public schools, you know, some bad actors, no one says, see, I told you schools are bad. But for some reason, with charter schools and specifically our independent study or personalized learning schools, when there's one bad actor, people tend to point the finger at the entire industry, and that's kind of what's going on legally lately, isn't it? Let's talk a little bit about some legislation. I know in the recent past there have been some laws and some Assembly and Senate bills proposed that have really taken aim and are threatening charter schools. They're threatening a parent's opportunity to choose the right school for their kids. Can you talk about some of the legislation we've seen recently, or more importantly, things that are coming up?
Well, we only have an hour, right, in this show?
Yeah, yeah. Oh gosh, it has been a lot, hasn't it?
Oh well, we're challenged each year, and by a lot of legislation that are politically motivated to stop the growth of charter schools, to undermine parent and student school choice, and really to demean the entire movement. So we're constantly faced with this and have been for many, many years. And when one really understands the political dynamic, one can see why, because charter schools have grown to represent more than 10% now of the entire public school population in California.
Wow.
And because of their success, and even within the personalized learning movement, we have demonstrated tremendous success through the pandemic. And we've heard many stories of learning loss, tragic and alarming learning loss as a result of the pandemic.
Right.
But our results among our 90-plus members in California actually showed positive growth across all student groups within our schools in both English language arts and in math. So we are succeeding and helping these students succeed even in challenging times such as the pandemic. But yet we get no acknowledgement and recognition from this legislature for those successes. And instead, like you said, they focus on the couple of bad actors,
right,
and want to punish the entire movement. Well, this is politically motivated because we are, in the eyes of the public school system, representing a threat to them,
sure,
to their control and power over the system. and rather than work collaboratively with us to ensure that all students receive the choices and the opportunities, the equity, the equal opportunity, the best possible program that they can be matched to, they simply want to continue to try to exert efforts to destroy us and undermine us and sabotage us. And you're right. In exchange for being rule-based, for being performance-based, and for being flexible and innovative, we are held accountable to higher standards than the public school system is held to, because every 5 years we have to demonstrate academic progress in order to renew our charters. Traditional public schools are not required to do that. So there is little or less accountability with public schools to have to show academic achievement and progress. We're held to much higher standards, and so we have to be more accountable to be able to demonstrate our academic successes in order to be renewed and sustained as public charter schools. But there have been a lot of efforts to exert more restrictive requirements on charter schools. I really won't get into the details of that, to exclude charter schools from funding avenues that are afforded to districts to the point where we don't receive the same amount of funding, even though we receive the same amount of Prop 98 LCFF funding as districts. We don't receive a lot of the other types of funding avenues that districts do. So there are inequities in even the funding level, because charter schools are routinely excluded from those opportunities, and particularly personalized learning and other non-classroom-based programs are excluded from that. In most recent examples, we were excluded last year from the hold harmless funding provisions that were given all school districts and even classroom-based charter schools. We were singled out and excluded from that. The year before that, we were excluded from enrollment growth funding, which meant that we could not enroll more students than what we had had the previous year because the state refused to pay us for them. And so these are the types of mechanisms that are being passed through the legislature to squelch the growth of charter schools, particularly personalized learning and other types of non-classroom-based charters that are proving really to help the kids that have been marginalized and disadvantaged in the system.
So you're absolutely right. There was legislation passed to pay the traditional public and the classroom-based schools, even though for students who weren't attending anymore, but those students who were moving into the personalized learning and independent study schools, those schools weren't getting paid for those students. And that's just a small example of the ways that politicians are taking aim at these schools that are providing a personalized, high-quality education for kids. What can families do, Jeff? How can people help influence the legislature? What can parents do to help protect the high-quality education their kids need?
First and foremost, parents need to be informed and get involved. They need to defend their right to public school choice for their children and for the children in their communities. Even if their children have grown up, they need to recognize that the health and well-being of their communities is largely dependent upon a well-educated population, and that kids need to have those choices available to have the best chance to succeed in life by having a well-rounded education. There are, of course, first and foremost, they should be reaching out to their elected officials at the local level and at the state level and even the national level, and demand that they support public school choice and public charter schools. There is an organization that has emerged through Aplus that is a parent advocacy organization. They can join that organization. It's called Apple, which is the Alliance of Parents for Personalized Learning Education.
I love it.
Anyone interested in that can go to Facebook and find the Apple Facebook page and request to be a part of that. The California Charter Schools Association, also known as CCSA, has a parent information group called Charter Nation. If they go to info.ccsa.org/blog, they can subscribe to Charter Nation to be kept in the loop on all important charter related issues, and to be able to know when they need to contact their legislators whenever an anti-charter school bill comes about that they need to call and exercise their voice in opposition to. They can also contribute to the California Charter Schools Association Advocates Group, which helps fund the campaigns of school board members and assembly members and senators in the state who are pro-public school choice and pro-charter school. And they can make a contribution to that organization at www.ccsaadvocates.org. And finally, they themselves should exercise their voice by voting in elections in the state for school board candidates, assembly candidates, and Senate candidates, and other state and national elected officials who strongly support public school choice and public charter schools, to make that a priority. There's a lot of political issues out there that people can glom onto, but I certainly count education among the top issues that everybody should get around, because it is about our future generation. It is about our children who don't have their own voice to vote. And we need to stand up and defend the rights of our children to have the best possible lives they can in their future. And that means healthy public education system that offers a wide variety of choices that are operated both by school districts and by charter schools to ensure that every child has equal access and equal opportunity to the best public education they possibly can find.
You're absolutely right. Vote, donate, get involved, get in touch with your legislators so that you can support every family's right to choose the best quality education for their kids. Jeff Rice, president and founder of Aplus, the Association for Personalized Learning Schools and Services. Thank you so much for joining us today, Jeff, and thank you for fighting for quality schools for all Californians. We really appreciate you coming in.
Thanks, Matt. It's been an honor and joy to join you today, and I just want to wish your listeners very happy holidays and a safe celebration during this very wonderful holiday season.
Thank you, Jeff, and we wish the same for you. This is SCVI and iLead School's Eye on the Valley. I'm Matt Watson, and we're going to be right back. We're going to goof off and play around with my big brother a little bit. This is your hometown station, KHTS. Welcome back. You're listening to KHTS, your hometown station, 98.1 FM and 1220 AM. This is SCVI and iLead School's Eye on the Valley. I am your host, Matt Watson, and now it is time for Big T's 5 Minutes of Fame. Y'all know Big T. He is a longtime resident and leader in the Santa Clarita Valley. He's an executive and a philanthropist. He is an amazing father, husband, and community leader. But when he was a kid, Santa gave him coal, and he ate it. Here he is. He's Mom's favorite, everybody. Big T, welcome to the show.
And I was going to say happy birthday to you, but not now.
It's not my birthday. Hey, Big T.
It is on Monday.
It is. Hey, Big T, we got engineer Andrew in the station, in the studio. He's going to be playing along with us. And on the phones, we have got associate producer Luke. You might remember Luke. He's actually helped produce a couple of our episodes a year or two ago.
Awesome. Let's get rolling.
All right, let's do this. Luke, you remember if you know the answer, you need to shout out your name. So just shout out Luke when you know the answer. That is your buzzer, and we'll do this.
All right.
Alrighty, a quick fun fact from Papa's Sports Corner. We're in the middle of the holiday season, but we're also in the middle of baseball free agency. Right. You know who's going to have a really good holiday this year, Maddie? Scott Boras. In the last 2 weeks, 7 of his players have signed for a total of $1.4 billion.
$1.4 billion, and he's their agent. Does he get, what, 10% of that?
He gets five. He only takes 5%.
All right.
But that's just $70 million.
$70 million this year. All right. Very nice. For
$70 million. Hey,
for negotiating. All right, cool.
For negotiating, and that's just in 2 weeks. Those are good stocking stuffers right there.
Right.
Speaking of Papa, Washington State on Saturday.
All right. He's taking Washington State.
Okay.
All right, cool.
Yes, sir.
Let's do this.
Published since 1925, what American weekly literary magazine is also famous for its cartoons?
Sarah.
Oh.
Sarah.
The New Yorker.
The New Yorker. Good luck getting your name in there, Luke. In baseball, what does ERA stand for?
Frogger.
Sarah.
Frogger.
It's earned run average.
That is correct. A prank amongst engineers is instructing a student to replace what kind of fictional capacitor invented in the film by Dr. Andrew?
The flux capacitor.
That is a flux capacitor. Andrew, you're a little hard to hear.
All right.
Who commanded the French forces at the Battle of New Orleans?
Frogger.
Frogger.
The French forces, you said?
Yes.
At the Battle of New Orleans. Okay. I was going to say Andrew Jackson, but that's wrong.
Sarah?
That is incorrect. Sarah?
Was it Lafayette?
No, incorrect.
That
Andrew, you
was
got
my
anything?
guess. Nope, that was my guess.
Joan of Arc.
Oh.
Okay.
So this is not New Orleans, Louisiana.
There it is.
He threw us a curveball. It's not New Orleans. It's New Orleans. All right.
Finish the quote. All is fair in love and...
Frogger.
Frogger.
I think it's Andrew. Go.
War?
War is correct.
Yep.
All right.
What restaurant invites those not chicken to eat hot chicken wing in its blazing challenge?
Andrew.
Andrew.
Would that be Buffalo Wild Wings?
Buffalo Wild Wings is
Hey.
correct.
Beat
Nice
ups.
pull there. What term from the French referring to a mistake means false step?
Andrew.
Sarah.
Andrew.
Faux pas?
Faux pas correct.
Very French heavy today.
Very French heavy. Debuting in 1954, the annual Newport Jazz Festival is held in what state?
Frogger.
Sarah.
Frogger.
Louisiana.
Incorrect.
Andrew.
Sarah.
Oh, good.
Rhode Island.
Go ahead. Rhode Island's correct.
Known for their jazz, yes.
Yes. Go to Utah.
Also busy this week. What British insurance market, founded in 1688, is famous for insuring celebrities
Frogger.
and athletes' body parts? Frogger.
Sotheby's.
Incorrect.
Oh, nope.
Anybody? Lloyd's of London.
Lloyd's of London.
Lloyd's of
We got
London.
time for one more, Big T.
All right, the polka dot jersey that's worn by the athlete who leads the mountain classification is prestigious from what race?
Andrew. The Tour de France.
Andrew. Tour de France.
All right. Like I said, very French heavy. Andrew dusted us.
Yes.
Andrew, Delgado is French, right?
Yes, it
okay.
is.
Okay, fantastic. We got to wrap it up. Big T, thanks for swinging by. We also want to thank our guests, educational facilitator with iLead Online, Jalaine Hagemeister, president of Aplus Personalized Learning and educational advocate, Jeff Rice. Producer Sarah, you produced a great show today, Sarah. Appreciate you. Associate producer Luke, hey, thanks for swinging by. Welcome home.
I don't think I got my name in a single time. But thank you for having me.
But it's always good to hear from you. We want to thank Engineer Andrew, Engineer Precious, Big T. We always appreciate you. Thank you for listening. Remember, life is hard, but we're all here to help each other along. Be well, do good, and don't forget what we talked about. Call 911 for an emergency. Call 988 for suicide crisis, 988. Join us again next week and every Friday, 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. I am Matt Watson, and this is SCVI and iLead School's Eye on the Valley on your hometown station, KHTS.